as well as the Big Ten tournament, playing in the second round of the women's NCAA tournament. That would be the Maryland Terrapins with a 2 seed overall. They've been so good at scoring the ball, not only this season, but early on in this tournament. And Mimi Collins gets a friendly role. She scored the first 9 points of the game for the Terps. The 3-pointers were falling all day long. That's Collins. Here's Katie Benzin. Diamond Miller can drop it, and then Benzin again, doing that all season long. Maryland made 4 threes in the first 6 minutes of the game. Time winding down in the first. Look at the score. It's all Maryland. Chloe Bibby with the steal. The freshman Angel Reese with the finish. 30-9 was the score after the first quarter. You barely heard from Ashley Owusu, the leading scorer. Scores there, but she only had 10 points and 8 assists. She didn't need to do much. Maryland's up 29 at intermission. Owusu stealing, and then finishing will be Reese on the putback. Reese led the team with 19 points. Maryland's up 33. Fourth quarter now, Diamond Miller. Defense to offense. Give me that, thank you. The steal, coast to coast, all alone. Maryland scored 33 points off turnovers. They win 100-64. Brenda Fries and company roll into the Sweet 16. Yeah, she's got reason to be proud of the league. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit, but we're happy to bring in Christy Winters Scott right now to break down this Maryland victory. And she talked about all sorts of ways to say it. Team effort, depth. I mean, Christy, that was on full display in this game.
Well, it was the bench points, Mike. I think Maryland's balance has been the talk of this NCAA tournament so far, with 6 players coming into the tournament averaging in double-figure scoring. But it was the bench play for Maryland that really stepped up big. She said, hey, our team scored 46 points before our leading scorer of the game scored her first bucket. Angel Reese with 19 points for the Terps went off. She was so quick and crafty inside. And Faith Masonis, who plays rugged basketball, gets her stuff through the mud, hustle plays on 1,000, a career-high 16 for Faith Masonis today for the Terps.
I mean, they are a legit threat to win the national championship. If for nothing else, 2 stats so far, Christy. 1, they've averaged 99 points in their 2 NCAA tournament games. But the other thing is they've won their 2 games, Christy, by 89 points combined. It's incredible.
And they have scored 198 points. It's really insane. I mean, just to watch the firepower on the offensive end, but it's fueled by their defense. And yes, we're talking about their offensive prowess, and we've said it before, but where does that come from? It comes from their great dig down on the defensive end, the buy-in of the unselfish play and the culture that Brenda Fries has cultivated over this season for sure.
2 wins away from their 6th Final Four ever. Now, up next was Indiana, another very good year, and they got perhaps a break, at least by the numbers, in taking on a 12-seeded Belmont team up next. Allie Patberg in the second quarter with the runner, and the Hoosiers are up by 10. Later on in the second, Grace Berger was a big star in this game. She puts the Hoosiers up by a dozen at the break. Second half now, Allie Patberg. In the third quarter, the jumper, the long one, is good. Hoosiers lead by 11, and more from Berger. Flying through the lane, laying it in. She had 17 points on the day to lead the Hoosiers, scrambling after a loose ball. The found art of the mid-range jumper. Hoosiers up 51-33. Then Mackenzie Holmes down low doing the work, but you can see by the score and the time already, this thing was toast. Indiana wins 70-48. They get the victory. They're off to the Sweet 16. And this is a Hoosier team that was led by Grace Berger throughout the whole year, Christy. And sure enough, they were led by her in this game.
Well, she is strong enough, obviously, to carry the team on her back, but it's not just an individual performance. Great balance for the Indiana Hoosiers, especially on the defensive end. Yes, Grace Berger is that player for them, the X factor. She does everything. She's the Swiss Army knife for Indiana, but you can't not talk about Allie Patberg and Mackenzie Holmes. And how about Alexa Goulbe with 14 rebounds, which is a new school record. in the NCAA tournament. Gulbe, she's a great defender, but those possessions matter, and she did her work on the glass.
I mean, here's the thing to consider. They've allowed only 80 points combined in their 2 tournament games. Christy, that's a Big Ten record for 2 games into an NCAA tournament.
Well, we've talked about the offensive prowess of our Big Ten teams who are still continuing in the NCAA tournament, but defense has been the cornerstone for Terry Morin and her program. She says we don't know any other way to play, but when you have that buy-in from the team on the defensive end, you have to have the will. It's not necessarily the skill, it's the will to operate and execute on the defensive end. And Terry Morin says you cannot step on the floor if you're not going to play rugged on the defensive side, and that's what they have done so far in this tournament, and that's why they're continuing on in the Sweet 16.
Northwestern, the 7th seed, trying to take down the 2nd-seeded Louisville Cardinals. Cats have never made it to the Sweet 16, and man, did they get off to a great start. In the first quarter, Jordan Hamilton was not throwing away her shot. The jumper there, the 3-ball here. She turned defense into offense and had 12 points in the first quarter alone, and the Cats were cruising up by 15 at the end of the first quarter. But slowly, the Cardinals chipped away. They're on a 7-0 run when Dana Evans hits one in the lane. Fourth quarter now, they've tied it. Part of a 12-0 run. Smith, the long pass, the layup. Cardinals take their first lead. Courtney Shaw trying to keep Northwestern back in. The momentum, however, had left the building. Haley Van Lith, a 3-ball. Louisville wins. Joe McEwen and the Cats season comes to a close. So that means 4 Big Ten teams are off to the Sweet 16 for the women's tournament. That is the most in conference history. You haven't even had 3 Big Ten teams in the last decade. And we bring back Christy Winters Scott to talk about this because we have said throughout the regular season, this was a different year. This was a deeper, more talented league than we have seen in a long while. And so far, 2 rounds into the NCAA tournament, Christy, that has undeniably been true.
Well, in the words of Kim Barnes-Arico, Big Ten, baby. I mean, this is what it's all about, right? The respectability of this conference. 5 teams were ranked all season long. 7 teams get into the tournament. I just think that you have to give credit where credit is due. And these teams have worked hard for the respect that now everyone is seeing. And they're like, oh, we've seen these other teams all year. You haven't been watching the Big Ten? You have to watch these teams to understand why we have been talking so much about the balance and the strength of this conference. You have the leading team in the country in terms of scoring points. You have Iowa shooting the ball best in the country. These teams mean business, and you're seeing the proof of that now. The proof is in the pudding, and the Big Ten is real, and the Big Ten has 25% of the Sweet 16 field full.
Yeah, it's a sight to see. 7 teams make the NCAA tournament. The league's never done better than that. 5 teams move on to the second round. The league's never done better than that. And 4 in the Sweet 16, breaking an all-time record.